Hello again and welcome to another video on rowing technique with me, Robin Williams. This time I'm going to look at drills and exercises and how they can help rowing technique. You know, drills in all sports are used very commonly. If you think of a rowing stroke, a tennis stroke, a game of rugby, whatever it is, people generally see the value in taking the whole action and splitting it down into its parts, getting really good mastery over those parts, and then when you come to do the whole movement again, there should be a benefit there. But in rowing, some people think drills are a bit of a waste of time. They just want to train, and that's understandable in a way. But there are lots of drills you can do whilst you're training. They don't all need you to be stopped still in the water with no physical benefit. So I'm going to show you on the ergo a drill I really like doing, which is very much about keeping things moving and getting some work done. I think the other aspect of drills is that they're not always done, they don't always choose the right drill, and they're not always done in the right way. So for instance, if someone has balance problems, a person in the crew might say, let's row square blades. Well, that might be the cure, but it could also be the worst possible thing you could do if people start smashing their knuckles and making mistakes and getting tense. So it's about selecting the right drill. And I think the important thing, and at the end of the video I've summarised this on a written reminder actually, the important thing is that drills are a progression. So it's no good to just think up a drill and let's do it and hope that things will get better afterwards. We need to start with a drill which is achievable. So maybe you have the blades flat on the water to make balance easier. You do it with low pressure, low rate. An ergo is more stable than a boat, so that would be a lower level of skill needed. And then once you've got people doing the movement in the right way at an easy level, well then you can make it a little harder and say, well, the whole crew start rowing, or we'll make you let's all row with square blades now, and then make it a little bit harder still, perhaps let's go eyes shut. You can just layer up the levels of difficulty with drills. The important thing is to find the level where people are competent and where they start to lose control and work around that area. And you can even then really overskill people, so you can do high rate stuff, overspeed drills, eyes shut, square blades, feet out. We can make it as difficult as we want to make it so that you can acquire better and better levels of competency. And if we do these drills diligently and get them right at each level, and we ingrain them and do them until we're really, really good at them, then I think they make a real positive contribution to a robust technique which holds up under any circumstances. Okay, well let's have a look at the ergo and I'll show you the one I'm talking about. Okay, so you may remember last time I introduced this idea of the 3 halves drill, the 3 halves exercise. I know mathematically you can't have 3 halves, but in my world of rowing you can. There's overlap between the 3. The exercise was about really just looking at the first half of the stroke, the back half of the stroke, and the middle half. The first half, if you remember, was just about holding on to a good trunk position, hopefully a good trunk position, and pushing, not opening and not trying to pull. And that's the basic point of that exercise off the front, is to get used to moving through the feet, keeping a fluid movement going here in the handle. The back end was all about that final powerful extension, trying to keep the hips engaged so we don't sit back down in the boat when the handle's still some distance off, that we can finish the stroke at full extension, pressed out here, pressed here, supported, and clean off the finish. And then the middle one was all about exploiting the power of the knee angle and the hip angle as they're in their strongest part of the stroke mechanically, when more or less when the oar is coming through the orthogonal. So that was the drill in basic terms. But I think all drills need to be done in the right way. And the first way to do it is to do it at a level where it is achievable. There's no point in doing a drill that you can't do. So you do it with steady rate, and steady pressure. That way you can figure out what's going on. So I've really already done this part, but this would be the steady rate, steady pressure, and hopefully you'd have a mirror or a coach or a video, someone saying sit a bit taller, loosen your shoulders, and trying to just get things happening in the right way, going through the right movements and in the right positions. Then the challenge is to add some power, because power can interfere with movement patterns. The harder you try, generally the more tense the muscles become, and the harder it is to apply quality skill. But that's what we have to do in a rowing race. Okay, so we would go from our low rate, low pressure version to doing it with some pressure, but still with low rate. What that does is it means I'm clearly pushing here because that's what you do with the legs. My hands are still wrapped around the handle because that's what they do. But somewhere through here, my brain is beginning to think, I need to connect this bit to this bit. So if I collapse here, that's not going to work. And you can appreciate what is the extra step you're taking when you apply more pressure. If you and your coach are happy with that, then the third step is to do it up at pace. And I'm going to just bring on the display here, because this is an exercise that you can actually do at race rate. So I'm going to aim to get it up to something like 35, 36 rate, and hopefully, technically, it won't be too bad. We'll see. Okay, so that's rate 35, 37 actually. It's not that difficult to go to race rate with that exercise. I'm not going full power, but we do an awful lot of rowing at low rate. We have to get good miles in, as we know, to get aerobically very fit in rowing. But on a rowing machine, doing some sections of drill work here where you're at race rate, you could do it for a minute or several minutes if you want, is a really good way of just teaching your body how to move. What are the things you want to do and what are the things to avoid doing. If you start grabbing it here or losing posture or bum shoving, well then it's much easier to pick that up on an ergo, especially if it's just one person, one machine, compared to being out there on the water in a crew situation. So the principle of the drill of any drill, is you do it at a level where it's easy to begin with. That could be half the crew have the blades on the water, so the balance is easy, but it would be with a stable boat, with pressure that is manageable, and with a rating which isn't too challenging. So low rate, low pressure, stage one. Stage two, you add pressure, you add effort, but you keep the rate low. And then stage three would be to put in rate and pressure. And even on stage four, if you want, you could even go beyond that and do overspeed work, and go into a realm that you may not even have to go into when you're racing. You're trying to overskill yourself. So with the three halves exercise, the back end one, we would just try and get the basics of quarter slide rowing right, which would be the movement of the trunk from back of the seat to the front of the seat, knees unhooked, arms relaxed and shoulders, trying to remember to sit here, which is my problem, and we'd get the basic movement right. Remember before I said a lot of people snatch on the arms on quarter slide like this, so you try and let the work get done through here. Okay, and then stage two would be to do that low rate with pressure. And then stage three would be to do it up at rate. And that's rate 36, 37. Again, not that difficult to do on a rowing machine, and because it's only a short bit of the stroke, but effectively
We're practicing the movement skills that we need in a regatta situation without going through the physical effort of a whole stroke. So if we wanted to row rate 36 in order to practice the back end, and we do it with a whole stroke, it means doing a race piece of work. If you do it this way, you just take the bit of the stroke that you're interested in. We can do several minutes of back end rowing at rate 36 without it actually costing anything in terms of physical fatigue. It's not that difficult to do. I mean, of course, there may be days where there are pieces where you practice it and you have the work there as well. So I hope that's been useful. As I say, I think every problem that we have in rowing, whether it's heaviness or acceleration or rhythm, poise, balance, sequencing, whatever it is, there's a drill or several drills that we can use, but it is a matter of using them in the right way. So the first video we used feet out, if you remember, a tricky exercise, but a really good one if you get it right. This one is about knowing when to push, knowing when to pull, how to be explosive, sequencing, legs, body, arms, segments, and so on. So every problem, there's a solution, there's a drill, and there's a way of doing drills which I think is hopefully going to help you all become even more effective rowers than you are already. Thanks a lot, see you next time.